Welcome to Don't You Two Read, a podcast where two sisters talk about all things books.
We're just two girls who found ourselves texting about books on a daily basis and thought, why not turn on a mic?
We'll be talking about our recent reads, a weekly bookish topic, and what we're looking forward to reading next.
So grab a cup of coffee and maybe even a snack and be prepared to take down your TBR and add a lot to it as we talk all things books.
I'm Hilary, and I'm a mom in Oklahoma, and I am loving my new Kindle case.
And I'm Hannah, a stay-at-home mom in Texas who had to replace her Kindle this week.
Oh yeah, you should have had a new Kindle case, huh?
Yeah, so I dropped my Kindle, which it was like honestly probably the 100th time I've dropped it. So I looked at it, I was like, oh, I love this. It's so sturdy and it doesn't ever break. Like I literally thought that. And then later that night, it started flickering and then it just the next day, totally the backlight stopped working. So it was a whole thing, but I have a new one. And yes, I plan to get like a full case because I had like if you were here last time or like a few weeks ago, I guess, I said how I have a clear cover just on the back. And Hillary's like, I have a screen protector. Da-da-da. And I said, I
It
don't
was
have
last
that.
week, wasn't it? It was the bookish accessories. Was that last week? No, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And so I said, I don't have any of that. I said, oh, I better knock on wood. Or I said something. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna jinx myself. Yes, that is literally what happened. Um, it was a ordeal and it was not good. I will say my warranty ended, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before this incident. The warranty ended and so Amazon was like, "No, we can't do anything. Like you're just gonna have to buy a new one." They did eventually say, "Oh yeah, you can have 30% off." Which was cool. And then they also I had asked them if they could not charge me for the ads, like the removal fee for the ads on your Kindle. Um, I was like, well, can we just take it off since I paid to take it off of the one that broke. Anyway, they could have charged me, but they didn't. They refunded that too. So I thought that I was like, well, they did more than I deserved. So I was happy with it.
Yeah, it's been a bad Kindle week for you, for sure. Okay. Other than that, how was your reading week? I guess that put a stop on it. No, they got it to you really fast.
They got it to me really fast. I mean, it's been good. It's been a good reading week. Like I've had like no 5 stars this whole month. So like I've had good reading, but I do still feel like I'm like, well, am I gonna like love anything anytime soon? You know? I don't know. How about you?
I mean, it's been fine. I've liked my reading, but I am struggling to get the numbers in. So I feel like I'm the Mickey Mouse in the canoe, on the water. Is it from Fantasia? He's just like trying to stay afloat.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
me right now. This is episode 7 of season 1, and welcome. Today in the episode, we will be doing a deep dive into one of our favorite authors, Abby Jimenez, and later we'll talk about our short list. But before that, let's talk about our recent reads. Hannah, what is your first book?
For my first pick this week, I'm going with a book that came from my short list that I'm excited to report back on. This is Till You Came Along by Lorissa Padilla. Till You Came Along follows high school rivals to college lovers, Madeline and Elliot. After realizing the animosity they held towards each other was misplaced passion, they fall hard and fast in love. They spend 7 years growing in that love as they build their life together. But when Madeline has a traumatic accident and loses her memories, she only remembers the boy that she hated in high school and not the husband that she loves. Elliot is now forced to face a darkness and loneliness he thought was gone forever as he fights for his marriage and tries to make his wife fall in love with him again. She fell in love with him once. Can she do it again? So, this book has an interesting writing style where the past timeline is written in Madeline's POV and the current timeline is written in Elliot's. So, not only are you getting a dual timeline with each chapter, but you're also getting a dual POV as well. I felt like this made this book an absolute page turner for me. I really liked this one for the plot and the uniqueness of the plot, like the vibes, the intrigue. I was there for that. The idea of this story is one of the most fascinating plots I've heard in a long time. As far as the execution of the plot, I loved so many elements of the story, such as the backstories of each character and the patience that Elliot had for his wife as she literally forgets everything good about him. I loved the support of their friends and their family through all of this disaster. With that said, there were some things that didn't quite work perfectly for me. There were some moments that felt a little bit forced or just moved too quickly for my personal taste. The romance in the past timeline felt fast, like light years fast. Madeline, she's 18, so I really tried to like put myself back like when I was 18. And so in some ways I could kind of rationalize it to myself and be like, okay, she's super young, like she's naive, like you fall hard sometimes when you're 18. And so I tried to like let it slide, but I did have some concerns. It's just worth noting that it was like it kind of felt like Edward and Bella, where it almost feels like an obsession, like an all-consuming love really quickly. So it does feel a little bit codependent throughout the book. But I always like to remind everybody I do love slow burn. So I don't know, it might just be me and it might not have been as fast as I felt like it was. But the romance in the current timeline as they're going through the marriage and crisis, I did like that part a lot of the story. And that part was slow burn because she forgot everything and she went like back to hating him. So it was slow and he had to like really work with her because she was like not into him at all. Overall, I thought that this was a good read. It was very unique compared to other books that I have read. The experience was very entertaining, and I did enjoy the process overall. It's only when I pick through it with a comb that I start to realize that certain elements just felt a little bit off for me. But I consider it a win as far as the vibes are concerned, and I am going to try the next book in this series. If you enjoy a dual timeline, second chance love story about a marriage in crisis with a fade to black romance, pick this one up. And that's Till You Came Along by Lorissa Padilla.
That does sound good. I know I particularly I like second chance romance. I know a lot of people don't, but especially books about marriage, um, I don't feel like there are a lot. So I'll probably add this to my list.
Yeah, I feel like it's rare, at least from what I see. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of marriage in crisis. And I'm like, I want more. Like, that's what drew
Hmm.
me to the book. And, like, yeah, it didn't hit everything perfect for me, but it was just so, I loved the idea. So I'm like, I just, good job for doing the plot because I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Okay, Hillary, what's your book one?
Okay, so this was the book I was like rushing to finish before I came to talk about this today because Hannah and I record the episodes a few weeks early just to give us some cushion because our lives are madness. Um so this book comes out tomorrow for those who are listening when this episode airs. This is Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman. This book is an ARC. I got this as an advanced copy. Um, and I actually read it. I read it like the day after I got it. So here's what the book is about. TJ Newman is known for her airplane thrillers, and while it's not set on an airplane, this one is airplane adjacent. The book opens when the pilot of a commercial jet has a heart attack, which causes the plane to crash into a nuclear plant located near the small town of Wichita, Minnesota. The book's pacing is extremely fast. We are thrown into the story and follow many characters as they are forced to make impossible decisions. We see teachers, firefighters, engineers, military, and more navigate this catastrophe. Like in Newman's other books, the chapters begin with a running clock, counting us down to the 0 hour. I won't even try to be vague. This book is stressful. I have that all in caps. It is heart-pounding, and it gives you a sense of dread. The title is no joke. This book is about the worst-case scenario. I fell asleep reading this book a couple nights ago, and my dreams that night were stress-filled.
Oh my
Make
God.
no mistake, a lot of people die in this book, and I didn't necessarily feel like that in her other two books. Like, I know some people die, obviously, because, what we're talking about, but this one, a lot of people died. A lot of bad things happen. So, why would anyone want to read this book then, right? So, here are a couple reasons. One, it was so fast-paced and could be read very quickly. It was about 330 pages, so it would be good. It would be a good book if you needed something quick, like if you wanted to change things up, a change of genre, like we talked about, to break a book slump, um, just something like that. Two, it has beautiful depictions of sacrifice and love. And three, it shows the power of community banding together in times of darkness. I will say that I really liked this book, but it wasn't my favorite of hers. A main reason is that I knew nothing about nuclear plants, so I found myself having to Google terms quite often at the start. That gave me a slower startup. I would do yourself a favor and just look at that on your own before you read this, if you were like me and you have no idea about what, the main terms of of a nuclear plant are. Also, this is so minor, but the perspectives change often, and sometimes it would happen mid-chapter. There is rarely a way to show that shift. I just wish there was a little squiggle or something just to show like the break in perspective. This is also what happened in the Third Crescent City book. And I had the same complaint. It really drove me crazy because we'd be talking about one character and it was like, and he went into the store, and then the next paragraph would say, he punched him in the face, and you're like, "What happened?" But you didn't realize that you jumped to someone else's perspective, someone else's story,
Mm.
but there was no indication. So that also gave me a pause because I would be reading, and then I'm like, "Wait, who are we talking about again?" And I did tell Hannah that earlier, and she said maybe that's because it's an ARC. Maybe like the printed copies won't actually, like, maybe they'll have it. Because I did notice some parts of the book did have a little dash, like in between. And then later on, there's nothing. So maybe like, the book that comes out will have it. But it was just something I noticed. Again, it's not the end of the world, but I just noticed it enough to make me think of it every time. And also, there are a couple plot points that felt like the author was intentionally trying to pull at your heartstrings. I was like, okay, here we go. I know this person's going to die. They're toast. And then, even if I was right, they were toast. It still got me. I found myself tearing up, but I just felt like she was purposely trying to make you feel sad by being like, and then they said goodbye, and then, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to make people aware that if that's not what you like, that it's in the book.
Mm.
So while it wasn't my favorite book of hers, I still really did enjoy it, and I'm glad I got the chance to read it. This comes out tomorrow, August 13th. That's Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman.
I was excited that you got to read this one.
Yeah, me too. Well, what's funny is I was like telling Taylor about this book, and I was like, this is crazy because like I don't even know what, a scepter is in a nuclear plant. And I said I was picturing something like, because I said like there's three, and I was picturing something like I don't know, like a foot tall. And then Taylor's like, no, they're bigger than buildings. And I'm like, yeah, how did you know this? And he's like, yeah, I've watched like documentaries about nuclear plants. I'm like, of course you have. So if you're smarter than I am, you probably will be fine. I just am not familiar with like the the pools in a nuclear plant, and I don't know
Yeah.
how nuclear energy worked, but I'm not gonna lie, it did make me think like, well, I need to educate myself because, this is the future.
Yeah.
It's hopefully not the plain part.
I don't know. I feel hesitant. I feel hesitant to pick this up now because I don't love overly sad things, and
It did feel more sad. It felt a little more sad than the others.
it was more sad than the others, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And I don't know that I would want to do that.
All right. So, what's your second book?
My next pick is another book from my short list that I mentioned on a previous episode. I was so excited to hear about The Sunrise on the Reaping coming out next year by Suzanne Collins, and Hilary told me, no,
Oh,
no,
yay.
you need to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes first. She was right, so I'm happy to say I did read that, and now I'm back to discuss it. So let's just dive in. This book is a prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy. We are in the capital following 18-year-old Coriolanus Snow as he prepares for his one shot at glory as a mentor in the games. The once mighty House of Snow has fallen on hard times, its fate hanging on the slender chance that Coriolanus will be able to outcharm, outwit, and outmaneuver his fellow students to mentor the winning tribute. The odds are against him. He's been given the humiliating assignment of mentoring the female tribute from District 12, the lowest of the low. Their fates are now completely intertwined. Every choice Coriolanus makes could lead to failure or favor, triumph or ruin. Inside the arena, it will be a fight to the death. Outside the arena, Coriolanus starts to feel doomed for his tribute and must weigh his need to follow the rules against his desire to survive, no matter what it takes. Okay, so if you've read The Hunger Games, then you know going into this one that we will be dealing with a lot of unlikable characters. So I would say know that going in. This is not a happily ever after. This is not a story of redemption. This is not a romance. This was always what made me delay reading this book. It's important to know what you're getting into. So I knew all the things going into this book, but I did still feel like I struggled to get super invested in this story. So for me, the book felt too long, and I almost felt like the book had two completely different vibes and two totally different stories. When the game was over, I still had almost half of the book left. And I was like, oh, dear Lord, like I need to go get more snacks. Like this is gonna be like days of reading this book. Like, and that's fine. But I was like, it just felt like I thought the book felt like it should be like coming to the end. And I'm like, oh, this is literally halfway. So I felt like it either could have been split into two books or just cut shorter because the pacing just felt weird to me. I had a hard time feeling feelings for anybody. Like, I didn't feel super invested in Coriolanus, and like overall, I didn't feel like the heart-pounding moments that I did feel during the Hunger Games trilogy. Like, I have talked to Josh about this, and he says it too, that he's like, when I read The Hunger Games, he's like, I could literally just like feel my heart pounding, like at certain moments where you just feel like the anxiety of The Hunger Games. And in this book, like I did not feel that. There was an exception to this, and that was the final scene of the book, which I did feel all of those things. But at that point, I almost felt like it was just a little bit too late for me. But with all of that said, I am glad that I read it. It's been on my list since it released years ago, and it needed to happen. So like I'm not mad that I read it. I think that if you've read the others, then yeah, I think you do. You probably should try it. And then lastly, I do have to compare it to the movie. Like I really loved the movie. I felt like the actors and the actresses in the movie like put full color into the book, like their personalities and like Coriolanus in the movie. I'm like, wow, I actually liked him. Like I felt like I don't know, like I'm it's very charismatic and it made sense to me. And same with Lucy Gray. In the book, I don't know. I did not feel it like I did in the movie. So if you asked me which one I would recommend, I would definitely go with the movie on this one, and I'm very, very sorry. Don't sue me. I know some people really love it, um, but it wasn't my favorite. If you have read and loved the Hunger Games trilogy and you want more of that universe, pick this one up. And that's The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins.
Yeah, I'm glad you read that one. So now you can be ready for what month does the next one come out? Early? Like I think spring maybe?
I want to say it was March.
That's what I was thinking. So you'll be ready for that.
Yeah, I was hesitant to read it for all the reasons that I didn't love it. So I'm like, well,
You know who I want a book about?
what?
Effie.
Yeah. But and me and you talked about this off air that it would be interesting to see more of where Snow, like there's so much in between where,
I said that I thought there was going to be a part two
yeah,
to this book. Like it felt I did like it. Okay, Hannah asked me if I read this when I was at her house, and I told her I read it, man, like when it came out. So quite a
years
few
ago.
years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
many years ago. But I remember I liked it. That was before I used Goodreads or anything. I remember liking it. I didn't love it as much as the original trilogy, but I remember thinking that I thought it was like book one of at least another. So like
Yeah.
it ended not like with not like necessarily with a cliffhanger, but it was like I felt like it was open to something else. So I was like, oh, there's gonna be a part two, like of whatever else is coming, and it never came, and now we've moved on to Haymitch.
Yeah, because I do feel like there's so much in between. Like, because he's not president. He's not President Snow at the end of the book. So I'm like, there's still like a
Yeah, we
lot.
had decades to go.
Yeah. Like of him getting set up to do that. I don't even feel like,
Yeah, so I
yeah,
finished the book and I was like, so how does he become President
I know.
Snow? And I was like, well, it's over. We'll find out in book two. And then the book two didn't happen, so it's fine.
Yeah. I felt very meh about it. So anyway, that's mine. Let's go and maybe I took over your book two. Normally your book two is like the meh
The
book.
slump.
So
Yeah.
let's see what's your book two today.
Yeah, I don't have a meh this time.
So it was
Every
me.
it's been a better month for me. Okay. My next book is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. And I am sorry if I am saying that wrong. I don't know if it's Caraval. First I said Caraval, which sounds like I am summoning my southern roots. And now I'm like Caraval,
I think it's Caraval. I don't
like
know.
caravan. It's not a real word, guys. That's why I don't know how to say it. Okay. Scarlett has grown up with one dream to attend Caraval, a performance on an island where the audience participates in a game. Think murder mystery party type of setup. Everything is only a game. It's harmless. In quotes. When she finds out that her cruel father has set her up with an arranged marriage, she realizes that this dream of going to Caravel can only happen now or never. She and her sister Tella run away to find the games in the cover of night and seek adventure. Filled with wonder, the island is fantastic and mysterious and slightly creepy, but Scarlet is enchanted by it all. What an escape from the life she will be forced to live soon. When Scarlet goes to find Tella in her room, she finds only a note. Tella has been kidnapped by the game makers, and she will only return if a contestant in the games finds her, using a series of clues left behind. The contestants have 5 days to find Tella, or she will be gone forever. But don't worry about her or anything. This is only a game. Okay, this book is classified as YA fantasy, and I think it does live up to that. There's nothing graphic, but the tone is fairly dark. The island of Caraval seems to be light and fun and exciting, but as Scarlet roams the island, its underbelly is not as it seems. It is dark and gritty, and Scarlet has to grow up because she starts out as this naive teenager and realizes that the world is not as innocent as she would believe. I really enjoyed this one, and I do plan to pick up the second book. You don't have to, but the first book ends with just enough of a cliffhanger that you're interested in what would happen in book two. So keep that in mind. That's Caraval or Caraval by Stephanie Garber.
I've always heard really good things about that series.
Yeah, I actually started with Once Upon a Broken Heart, that series.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that some of the characters in there originated from this world. Like
Oh,
that
that's
was a
interesting. Spinoff?
it's a set yeah, spin-off. So, but
Interesting.
nothing is spoiler. I don't think it matters. You can read whichever one. But I really like Stephanie Garber's writing. It's like the fantasy vibes that you want. Like if you want a fantasy, but you just don't want like open door any or like I don't want to say even closed door because nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's young adult. Like it's a true young adult novel. We're talking about like 17, 18-year olds
Mm-hmm.
in these books. So maybe like yeah, like we said, an adult but young. Um but if you like the writing, like the quality to me is of like an adult fantasy novel. So I do think the writing's really good. But if you are going to expect the characters to act like adults or um like you want spice, like it's just not going to happen. Her books, at least what she has written so far, it's like the spice is just not going to happen. Like there's a lot of flirting, a lot of like, oh, and he touched my arm and I had goosebumps, like that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe a kiss, but that's about it. Like you're not going to get anything other than that. But I do like it because it has the fairy tale vibes. Like and in a fairy tale, a true fairy tale, you're not getting like graphic details of anything. You're just
Yeah.
like, and then they kissed and that was it, you know.
Yeah.
So, but her writing very much reminds me of like a fairy tale book. So, I really do like her writing.
Hmm. Yeah, I should add that to my list because I would probably like it.
Yeah. Okay, what's your last book?
Okay, this last book was recommended to me by Jordan. She is at Bookish in the Heartland, and she is like my librarian friend in Kansas, and she literally is the best book recommender ever. So she recommended Lori Wick, and she's obsessed with Lori Wick. Like you could just make her day and go ask her to talk to you about Lori Wick. And she's read like every single one of her books multiple times. So this was one that she like quizzed me on what do you like and this and that. What do you not like in books? And this was the one she recommended to me based on the answers that I gave her. So this is The Knight and the Dove by Lori Wick. When Megan is forced to marry Lord Bracken, her life is thrown upside down. He's controlling and prideful, and she's spirited, but also deeply emotional. They clash mightily, but every time she runs away, Bracken chases his bride to make it work. These two are challenged in every way possible as they try to follow the king's arrangement, manage family dynamics, and maybe get to know each other before their wedding arrives. That is the synopsis that I tried to come up with because this book has like it's written in 2004. So it just feels like it's written in a different time period. Not only is the setting of the book the 1500s, but like it didn't follow like a traditional plot structure to me where it's like, oh, it's easy to say, oh, this lady wants a date for the wedding. Like, no, this plot was like, there was a lot going on because it just didn't follow like a typical, like, tropey type of romance. It did feel slow paced compared to books that I feel are written in the, 2020s, but I liked it. It had like a cozy feeling to me because it was just so different. Like, we're talking medieval time period. Um, so obviously culture is very different. Something interesting about this book is that one of the major themes in the book is Christian. There's a lot of like Christian themes in this book. So I mention this because it is like heavily woven throughout the story. Megan, she is very into her faith. And, there's prayer, there's Bible verses. She loves to share Jesus with everybody in the castle. And so I would just say if that is something that you know you will not enjoy, don't pick this one up. I like to just like look at reviews and see like what people are saying. So like a lot of the criticisms on this one was either they did not like the faith elements or that the book felt sexist, which I will go ahead and comment to that as well. This is in the 1500s. So, as far as like gender roles and that sort of thing, life in the 1500s, it looked very different than life in modern America in 2024. So the freedoms, they were not what they are now. So, I mean, it should go without saying, but like, it's just, arranged marriages. Like the king said, you're going to marry this random person you've never met before. And that's what it was. So that's the story. They have the very rigid gender roles of man and woman. And again, it's the 1500s. So you're not going to see like a feminism vibe here. Go into it knowing that. The family drama and the resolution of the family drama, because there's a lot of family drama. It was a little wild. It made the book very interesting, but it was wild. And I will say there was some repetition in our character flaws, like Bracken. He really struggles with control and pride. And Megan, she really struggles with running away from conflict. Like we see these themes occur over and over throughout the book. So I was at moments, I'm like, this again? Like, are you ever going to learn? But also, I was like, well, I do think humans do this where we struggle with the same thing over and over. So, yeah, in a book, it could be like a little boring, a little repetitious, but I do think that it reflects reality for most of us. Overall, this was a totally unexpected read, and it's hard to summarize just how much happened in this book, but I did have an enjoyable time. If you're looking for a unique Christian fiction book set in the medieval era, pick this one up, and that's The Knight and the Dove by Lori Wick.
Okay, that sounds fun. Almost want Jordan I want to put in my little, type in this is what I like enemies to lovers and
You
whatever
should.
and spit out a book to me.
I think it really is because she's a librarian.
Yeah,
So
she reads a lot.
she reads a lot, even things that she says that she wouldn't normally read. She's like, "Oh, I have to do this." So the mamas who come in and ask, what is appropriate for my kid or whatever, like looking exactly for this, and she's like, I gotta know what's in the book. So anyway, I'm like, shameless plug, go follow Jordan. I love her. She's amazing.
That's awesome.
Okay, Hillary, what's your last book?
Okay, I didn't know if you'd bring this book or not, but my book is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This was on my short list. I think it's one of the first ones I've actually finished from my short list. Uh, I'm a true mood reader, guys. I'm trying. So here's the setup. Justin and Emma find themselves in a similar boat. They will date a person, have a good time, but then break up. The person who the ex dates next will automatically date their soulmate. Wedding bells, true love, it's a curse. So one day, Justin and Emma find each other on Am I the Butthole page on Reddit. They decide why not try to date each other and counteract the curse so that the next person they date should hypothetically be the one. What could be the harm? After all, it's just for the summer. That's the setup of the book, but I'll give you a tiny bit more. This is not fake dating. This is real dating with a plan to break up after. They decided 4 dates, 1 kiss, just for the summer. Emma is a traveling nurse who has commitment issues, to say it mildly, and has major mom issues. And Justin is a cinnamon roll who is the guardian of his siblings. That situation is pretty hard for a girl who struggles with commitment. So that's where we find a lot of the conflict in the book. This book flew by for me. I read it on paper, and when I was reading it, it totally caught my attention and kept it. I never once had the feeling, wow, I'm ready for this book to be over so I can move on to something else, which has become rare for me, unfortunately. I felt a lot of compassion for Emma and her childhood problems, and I loved Justin. He was the absolute sweetest person alive, and I heard someone say he was the epitome of if he wanted to, he would type of guy. He packed her lunches for work. He sent her surveys to see what she'd like to do for dates. I loved reading about their hometown in Minnesota. Their dates were honestly very simple, nothing extravagant, but I loved them. It felt so real, complete with embarrassing moments and real life interruptions. Emma also has her best friend Maddie, and Maddie is fairly abrasive, but I did appreciate that she was always willing to tell Emma the truth when Emma had very few people in her life that would do that for her. I personally love it when romances have a character like that, like a voice of reason. You don't have to read Abby's other books to appreciate this one, but there were a lot of Easter eggs from past books. So if you have read her other books, you'll be excited to see those in this book. I would qualify this as open door. However, I think it was about 2 pages, maybe. So you can easily skip them if you want. I'm so glad I read this one. It's Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez.
I love that one too. I love Justin so much.
I know he actually reminded me of Josh, who's Hannah's
Ah,
husband.
he's the best. Yes, I,
Like Justin is very like head over heels. I would say this is also a he falls first type of
mm-hmm.
book if you like that, or like I don't know what people are calling it these days, but like he likes her more than she likes him, at least initially. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
like he's head over heels in love, just like totally committed. Basically like I would marry this woman immediately, and she's like, I don't know.
But you know what? And maybe this will like go into the topic later, but I feel like Abby writes men like this.
hmm Yeah, cinnamon rolls, almost all of them.
Yeah, I'm like I'd have to like as we're gonna talk about him, I'll see. But I feel like yeah, I feel like all of them are like this, where it's the woman who needs to get it together.
But I appreciate that because right now in culture, I think we've seen a lot of like men are idiots and stupid and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I don't think like she writes like that, which this is a good segue into our topic of the week. We're talking about Abby Jimenez. She's one of, at least I'll speak for myself, one of my favorite authors. She has written 7 novels or 6 novels, one novella, and we're just going to talk about her books today. We don't have a like a huge script. We're just kind of wanting to talk about her stuff, but first, I guess I'll talk about the list of what she has written, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I'll read them off first in order of publication. So her first book that came out in 2019, I don't have the years for everything after this, but I'm guessing they're one a year. We have The Friend Zone. 2 is The Happy Ever After playlist. 3, Life's Too Short. The fourth book is Part of Your World. The fifth book is Yours Truly. Then we have a novella, The Worst Wingman Ever. And then the seventh book that we're talking about, just for ease, we're just going to call it number 7, Just for the Summer, which came out this year in 2024. So that's what she has published so far. Okay, Hannah, have you read all of these?
Yes. We'd have to dig and see what other authors we've both read, like all of their backlist, but I feel like this is one of the few that we have both read all of them, because that's a lot. You've read them all
hmm
too.
hmm Yeah, I hadn't read Just for the Summer, but I had bought it. I was planning to read it. Everything else we'd have to like purposely try to like read the same books, but this is one of the few authors that we
Yeah.
have read, I think, everything by on our own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
organically we've read it.
Okay, so those are the books that she's published. We've both read them all. Let's talk about, before we give like our opinions on the books, let's talk about the tropes of the book. Do you want to start us off with
The
the
Friend
first
Zone.
book? Yeah.
Okay, so some of these are they're some of the things that I have listed, they're not like tropes, but they're like vibes. So
Yeah, like
just
plot points. We
yeah.
didn't want to give like a full recap of every book. That's too long.
Yeah, okay, so in the friend zone, we have a stubborn female. We have a firefighter, which I love. This book has a bit of a friends with benefits, and I don't know what the term is. I think I've heard like breadcrumbs. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, where it's like they just give a little and they just keep
I
coming
know what you're
back.
talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Settle for crumbs.
yes, like he takes what he can
Yeah.
get because he loves her so much. Like where you are like, oh, like if he was your friend, you'd be like, I don't know, like she's not that into you. But he is like, no, anything I can get. Like I love her for real so much, so I'll take whatever she gives me. And then also we have a dog, which I feel like a significant part of the plot is dogs, which I marked down for this book.
Uh, that makes me sad. The breadcrumbs.
It is. It makes me
Yeah,
sad
it's true.
too.
I also feel like that is a common denominator with a lot of her books too. Like we
Yes.
were saying, breadcrumbs. Just add that to the majority of these books.
And we can say that now probably. All of these books, they all have a dog. Like Abby must love dogs. And I think she has a dog
She
that she
does.
talks about.
She has said, like if you don't, I think she said that in one of the books. She was like, if you don't like dogs, there's something wrong with you. Everyone loves dogs.
Yeah, so all of her books they have like a prominent dog as a character, which I love. And they are open door. They get less spicy as they've gone on. So I will say for this one, they're all open door except the novella. So this one, The Friend Zone, it had multiple scenes in it. I don't have the number of how many, but I do know there were multiple open door scenes. And then what else? What else do you want to add?
We will talk about our thoughts in a little bit. I'm going to put a timestamp later in the show notes just to know we're going to try to talk about these books without spoilers. I mean, just know they're romances, so we know they end happy. Like no one's ending up alone in these books. But we don't want to give any major spoilers away. So we will put a timestamp because we will talk about like some trigger warnings for some of the books. So if you don't want those trigger warnings, because some people think they are spoilers, we're going to put a timestamp so you can just skip ahead and not worry about it. But if you don't care, then just keep listening. Okay, so Happy Ever After, which I will say that title is a struggle for me. I always want to call it the Happily Ever After playlist, and it's not. It's the
Me too.
Happy Ever After. I'm like, have I been saying this wrong the whole time?
I have been. I've 100% been saying it wrong this whole time.
Yeah, it's Happy Ever After playlist. And the tropes on this, are like, what it's about. We have grief representation in this, love after loss, like starting over, that kind of idea. And it's a celebrity romance, which I know that's not Hannah's favorite, but I think you still really like this one.
Okay. Life's Too Short. This book, I have it marked as a lot of humor with a serious plot, which I think she does in all of her books really well. I feel like all of them, she has a lot of humor, but they do have serious plot points. This one had single guardianship involving a baby. So like I remember Newborn, I feel like it was a baby. And I enjoyed it because that was the season of life I was in whenever I read the book. So it's like it's a little stressful, but I was like, oh, this just hits me because I understand. This book also has a grumpy sunshine feeling and a friends to lovers. Also.
I also made a note that this has disability representation in it, and I wouldn't say it's a celebrity romance, but she is a YouTuber. I remember that
Yes.
much. So
A
there's
travel, yes.
it's kind of like that element in it too.
Yes, I
Oh,
forgot about that. Okay.
okay.
Part of your world.
Part of Your World, that is her fourth book. We have a social gap, which is basically like there's like a huge financial gap. So the female protagonist, she is old money, very rich, very established, very prominent social figure. And our male protagonist is not. He's just like blue blood, everyday man. So we have that inequality gap right off the bat. It's also age gap. It's interesting because it's age gap where the female is older than the male. And small town. And then this is also, like Hannah said, breadcrumbs, major point of this book. Lots of
Hmm.
breadcrumbs.
That one also has like the friends with benefits fling where it's like, oh, you can have this, but not everything, you know? And he's like, okay, yeah, take what I get.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Um, book five, yours truly. This has fake dating, social anxiety, depression representation. There's found family, love letters, and they are both doctors.
Yes. And I also noted that I put enemies to lovers kind of.
Oh, yeah, because she hates him. I don't think he hates her.
I don't know. I just remember thinking he was the best like male protagonist.
I know she hated him.
But she doesn't like him. Yeah, because she
No.
it's like a big misunderstanding, but she's like, he's the rudest man.
Workplace rivals, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, because I think they want the same job, if I remember correctly. Yeah, oh, we'll get into it. Okay. Next.
Okay. And I have her novella, Worst Wingman Ever. It's a novella. We also have letters, as we did in yours truly. Um, and like Hannah said, it is closed door. I will note it is like Valentine's themed. You do not have to read it at Valentine's Day, but that is that's what it's centered on.
Yes. And lastly, just for the summer, Hillary went over that today. Single guardian, traveling nurse, taking care of each other when sick, dating of convenience, and I have mental health representation on that. And here, random question. Why is everything, there's a lot of doctors. Does she have a past in this? Like nursing or something?
I don't think so. She was a baker. She is a baker. Okay, so I know I follow her on Instagram. Do you? Her daughter has POTS disease
Yes.
and something else, I believe. But oh, and Abby has the kidney stuff. That I'm sorry, we're
Yes.
hopping around. Abby also has health conditions too. So I know that she spends a lot of time in the hospital with her daughter and herself. So I think maybe she's just grown like a fondness for the medical profession.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But I don't know. Abby, if you're listening, you can let us know if you want to be a doctor. Okay, so let's talk about, do you want to talk about what we think first and then our order and ranking or opposite?
Let's just talk about them first.
Okay, this is a moment if you want to skip ahead. We'll put the timestamp, but if you want to skip ahead and not listen to what we're about to say about the friend zone, you can go ahead and do that now. But we're going to go on ahead and give our brief thoughts and try not to spoil too much. But we want to say what we think about each of these books. So we're starting with the friend zone, Abby's first book. Hannah?
So I've read this one, I think 2 or 3 times. I really like it. It is very heavy, I will say that. I remember reading this both times, loving it and feeling all of the feelings. This was one of the first romances that, like, it's not sad I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's not depressing because again, we're talking romances, happily ever after. But it is heavy. And I think this is like the first book that I read that I was like, oh, like this is like serious problems, but I did enjoy it. And so I really liked it a lot. What are your feelings about this one?
I don't know where I heard about this book, but I would say because I think not us, but people have talked about romances in like romantic comedy. And I would say these books are not romantic comedies. They are romance. Or I feel like they're romance, but they can tend to go on the side of women's fiction too, I think. So that's where we have like all the plus stuff. There's a lot of extra. And this book in particular, we a trigger warning for this is infertility is a core part of this story. And whether you want kids or don't want kids. So that is a huge point of this book. The main female character, Kristen, I believe that's her name,
Hmm.
she is accepted. She's not going to have kids because of medical issues. And then the guy she's interested in, he wants kids. He wants like all the kids in the world, a huge family. And so that is like but of course, we also have the miscommunication trope, I think, in this, where instead of her just being like, hey, this is what's going on with me. I just wanted to let you know there's a lot of like, I don't know if he'd love me if he knew this about me. And he's like, I love her so much. And I don't know why she's pulling away from me. So
Hmm.
that's a major plot point, huge. And I just think people should know that right off. Like, if that is going to bother you, like the thought process of infertility, I would just skip the book. It did not bother me. I loved the book, and it was my first one I read of her. I loved it enough that I went straight into book two, but it is worth noting.
Yeah, Kristen in the book, she struggles with infertility. She has what does she have?
Does she have
Her
PCOS or
Yeah,
no?
that's what I thought it was. But anyway, so I wanted to say that it is the whole plot of the story, and the ending really catches people off guard. We have a lot of friends who have gone through this, and so obviously it's a sensitive topic for many people, and the reviews do reflect this, where I think it has like a low-ish rating because the ending can catch you off guard. The end can make you feel upset. So I wanted to say again, reiterate that it is the plot. Like it's not like this is a side plot. Like this is the plot. And also, I know a lot of people said it's very unrealistic, but I did want to mention that Abby, she has the note from the author in the book that I'm like, okay, I want to mention it, that the story is, she said, almost verbatim based on her best friend. So her best friend, Lindsay, had Kristen's story, basically. And so Abby wrote Lindsay's story. And again, the ending can upset people, and I understand, but this is based on a true story, which I think is fascinating to me. And obviously, it's just it's a hard story for everybody. But she has a nice note at the end because Abby knows that this whole story is like a minefield. It's very difficult, but I think she did a good job. I enjoyed the book, but yes, proceed with caution.
Yeah, but I do want to say we are not dealing with the death of a baby or anything. I just wanted to be clear that that is not what we're dealing with. Again, we're talking about a romance. All of Abby's books and over, not that bad things don't happen, but they all have a happy ending at
Yeah.
all of them. So, but if you have any further questions, I'm sure it's on Storygraph, but you can also DM us individually or on the podcast Instagram. So, but we both still love the book. We both still really liked it, but we just wanted to make sure you guys knew that.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy Ever After. This book, again, very heavy, if not more heavy than the first book, I think. We're talking about the death of a spouse in this book, and it happens before the book occurs, the second book occurs, but it like we know it happens, and we're walking through that grief process with our the female main character, and that's hard. She's very depressed, she's very not doing well, and so that's hard. But I thought it was a really beautiful story and seeing how she opened up to, life and love again after losing somebody. I love that. I'm with Hannah. Celebrity romances are not my favorite, but I still really loved this one. It was a touching story. And there's a lot of texting. It's not letter writing, but she like a lot of texting. And I thought it was
Because it's
really
like
good.
long distance.
Yeah.
My notes for this say, if you thought book one was heavy, this one will smash your heart with a baseball bat. It is
Yeah, it was very heavy.
grief galore.
Yeah.
It was good. I did enjoy this one. I will say it is not one that I would reread because it was just
It's
really
sad too.
sad.
It's
Very
happy too,
sad.
but it's both. You're gonna have a lot of both in this book.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the third book, Life's Too Short, I would say this one is not as heavy as the other two. There are still heavy plot points. We have disability representation, um, about living your life to the fullest because one of the characters has um I can't remember the disorder, but that you don't know how long you're gonna live. So you just gotta that's the title, Life's Too Short. And so that was kind of hard too. That was a harder topic, but not like as emotionally gut-wrenching to me.
Yeah. I think this one, because I do remember that it was like, this did feel lighter and more humor in the plot.
And this book is our first like our transition. I want to say like Friend Zone. We have Friend Zone and Happy Ever After. Those are like tie in. They're kind of like a part of a series, the Friend Zone.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, this is like our transition book into like it's tied in still to the Friend Zone, but we're transitioning to Minnesota now.
Mm.
And that's where we're going to a whole new venue where a lot of her books are now set in
Mm-hmm.
that area. So, yeah, so I really loved Life's Too Short as well. Um, but then we get into Part of Your World. This is where I have spicy opinions. I I really struggled with this book, and it wasn't the writing. I thought the writing was still very good, very true to her. I just really, really disliked the female lead in this book very much. She was entitled. She was snobby, which that's what she was supposed to be, so that's fine. But she didn't grow. Like it took her so long to grow for me that I really struggled. And then there's a whole element of she she makes a lot more money than the guy does. And there were a few scenes that she was like embarrassed to be seen with him at all. Um Not even just in her mind, like
She she
she made it known.
pretended she didn't know him. She was like she
Yeah.
texted him and was like, "Don't act like you don't know me," or literally something like that.
Yeah, it was very bad. Very bad.
She's 38 years old. She doesn't know what a broom is or how to use it. She doesn't know how to do laundry. She has never cleaned a shower. I mean, I'm sorry. We need to move on because I also like I did
Hannah
not
disliked it way more than me, but
I did not I had a very hard time finding anything likable or relatable about this woman. I loved Daniel, and so that's that.
yeah, I loved the town. I loved Daniel. I loved the house. The house is a character in this book. There was like even this book has a tiny element of magic, which we don't see in the other ones, but you can tell like this town, anytime we visit this town, it's like magical. I don't know if you noticed that.
Mm.
Like it has like dragonflies and the wind,
Mm-hmm.
like almost like Pocahontas vibes with the
Yeah.
wind and but I loved all that. But Alexis, I read it when I had COVID a few years ago. And so I was like, maybe it was COVID. Maybe that's why I didn't like it. And then so I listened to it again last year. I listened to it and I gave it oh, that's spoiler ahead. I gave it 3 stars the second time because I realized I was like hating on the book so much because I gave it a really bad rating initially, but it's still I wouldn't say I really liked it or anything. It was my spoilers, my least favorite out of hers, but
Mm.
anyway. But so I was nervous. I was like, what's happening? This like I love Abby, what's happening? But then yours truly came out and
Mm.
that was that's like I don't know, so good. I thought that was just excellent. Like excellent. If you read one, I would pick that one. That was
Yeah, me too.
the letter writing I loved, and Jacob was like the sweetest.
Yeah, this one it was so good. And then there's unexpected things in this book. It got real juicy. Like I it was a great. I loved this book. I mean, it was my favorite. I'm just gonna say it now, but that was the best one.
Yeah, me too. Yours truly, I thought is like the pinnacle so far.
Mm.
But worst penguin ever, I don't have much to say about that. I really liked it. That was very cute.
The only thing I have to say about that is it was literally just over 60 pages, which blows my mind because I really liked it. I thought it was like really cute and she did a really good job. I'm like, only Abby could do a
Hmm.
novella in like 60 pages. How? It blows my mind. So I liked it.
Yeah.
It was good. And then yes, just for the summer.
Still,
Um,
you know what I had. I mean, you know what I think about that. It was still great. I still loved it. I gave all of her books 5 stars, other than Part of Your World. That was the one that did not get 5 stars for
Really?
me. Yeah.
Mine were like kind of all over the place. I was like surprised because I do always say like, Oh, Abby. Like when I think of my favorite authors, I would say she's one of them. But I was like, oh, it's interesting that the ratings are a little bit varied for me on them.
What was your highest? Yours truly was your favorite?
Yours truly is my absolute favorite. Part of Your World, yes, was the least. By both of those were major outliers. Like yours truly beyond 5 stars. I loved it a lot. The only other one that I will say, so like I would say I liked and recommended all of them. Except Part of Your World, yeah, 2.5 stars for me. I did not like it. And then Life's Too Short was 3 stars for me. I did not like the main character very much. I don't know why. I really struggled with her. I felt like she was like selfish. I don't know. She was just like very difficult for me and like I was just like, ladies, similar to Part of Your World in the way that it was the woman that was just driving me crazy. And I was like, can you not give a little? But anyway, the rest, I would say they were all above 4 stars. It was just those two that were the lower ones. But anyway,
Um, I will say that in 2025, Abby has two books coming out. The first one is a novella that's coming out in 2025, and then she has her full-length novel, Say You'll Remember Me, in 2025, and it is connected to Just for the Summer. I do know that much, but I don't know anything else, but I am excited.
I didn't even know that. I only knew
I
about the
kept thinking it
novella.
was Taylor Swift. I just feel like it's Say You'll
Yes.
Remember Me. I was like, what is it gonna be? I'm excited. So we'll see what happens, but I'm ready. So we love Abby. So thank you. This was a suggestion from a listener already, so thank you for the suggestion. If you guys have any more suggestions, I mean, about another author, we also plan to do these like separately. Like Hannah has things that people that she has completed, and I have my own, so we do plan to do them separately as well. So if you have any more ideas, let us know. Okay. Let's talk about the short list. Hannah, what is on your list of what to read soon?
So I got Jaws. I bought this book when me and Hilary went shopping when she came to Houston. So I've always loved the movie and I've never read the book. So I got it and I feel like it's the perfect time, summertime to give it a go. I read the first few pages and it was very gory. And so I was like, I'm scared, but I'm putting it on my short list. So I just do it. I got to do it. What about you?
Okay, also on that same trip at the same bookstore, um, this is a book I downloaded on my Kindle, and so it's waiting for me to look to. I'm not guaranteeing you guys I'm gonna read this book, finish it. I'm guaranteeing you that I'm going to try it. We're gonna do a whole episode on the short list, I think, to update, and mine's gonna be just humiliating. But mine is Breaking the Dark by Lisa Jewell. That it just intrigues me so much. It's like a Marvel mashup with a crime fiction novelist. And so it's a Jessica Jones crime fiction book. And I'm like, this could be like excellent and so cool, or it could just be like the stupidest thing you've ever read. I don't know. Like, I think it's just like a toss up. So
Hillary
I'm
has
gonna try it.
she's mentioned this book like when she was at my house. I feel like you mentioned this book like 10 times.
Yeah,
So I'm like, you better try it
I am
because,
gonna try it. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it or not, but I'm
well,
gonna try it. I have it on my Kindle. It's ready to go.
yeah. That's why we need to do the short list updated eventually.
Yeah.
And then because I have had some too that I did try and that I did not finish. So we have to do that too. And we will eventually. I think we've said this before that like I get them I read them like as soon as I'm like my short list, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. And Hillary's more of a mood reader than even me because she's already like moved on in 5 minutes.
I'm
So
like, this is what I feel like reading right now. But if once I like end this call, my mind's like, nah, I don't feel like that anymore. So
Hillary's like, I said eventually.
you meant I'm gonna read it right now? I said eventually. If you guys don't know if you know where that's from, we'll send you a coffee. I'll send you coffee money if you can tell me where that's from.
Okay.
And on that note, see you guys later. If you've made it this far and didn't add this episode to your DNF pile, thanks a bunch.
That brings us to the end of this week's episode for the Don't You Two Read podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing about our recently read books and hopefully getting to know us better as we begin this podcast journey with you guys.
We will be including timestamps in the description on every episode so you can check there for books or products that we mentioned in today's episode.
Be sure to tune in to our next episode when we will be chatting about all things books. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Don't You Two Read Podcast, and you can find me at Hannah Reads.
And I'm at Hilary Reads. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you take a moment to follow us? You can also rate and review us wherever you listen. And as always, please share this with all of your bookish friends.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, we hope you have a magical week filled with 5-star reads.